Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Frank McGuire Street Topping Ceremony to kick off Basketball Legends Weekend here at the University of South Carolina. My name is Andy Demetra. I'm the voice of Gamecock basketball, along with Casey Manning on the Gamecock IMG Sports Network, and I'll be your MC for this evening. We're pleased to be joined by so many special people tonight. We have members of the South Carolina Athletic Department with us. We have city and state elected officials joining us tonight. We have Gamecock basketball players, both the current players in the back and also so many former players. More than 130 former Gamecock basketball players are in town this weekend for Legends Weekend. And we're also joined today by Gamecock fans, and we all appreciate you coming together for this special recognition for a very special man. Frank McGuire coached his first game at the University of South Carolina in 1964, and almost 50 years later, he remains an icon of South Carolina athletics. Over a 16-year career, he turned the Gamecocks into a national powerhouse, and he turned Columbia, South Carolina into a hotbed of hoops where the passion for basketball burned as intensely as any place in the country. And it was very clear, if you wanted top-ranked teams and you wanted one of the loudest places in college basketball, all roads led to Columbia under Frank McGuire. And so it's only fitting that here, in front of the home of Gamecock basketball, Colonial Life Arena, and just down the road from the house that Frank built, Carolina Coliseum, we honor him today with another great recognition of rededicating the street in front of Colonial Life Arena as Frank McGuire Way. At this time, it's my pleasure to welcome up South Carolina Director of Athletics, Ray Tanner, for some opening remarks.
Thank you, and thank all of you for being here tonight. This is a wonderful occasion, and I'm the official welcome to this great ceremony where we honor the greatest era of Gamecock basketball, the time when Coach Frank McGuire led our program for 16 seasons, a school record 283 wins, 7 postseason appearances, an ACC regular season championship, and a tournament championship. It's extremely humbling to see all of the former players who are here for this weekend. It's a true sign of love and respect for your former coach, something that all coaches desire from their players. I'd like to thank all of the former players for returning back to your alma mater this weekend. Carolina will always be your home. This is your school. This is your program. I'd like to thank members of the state legislature and city government who helped make tonight's resolutions possible. Senators John Corson and Nikki Setzler. House members James Smith and Todd Rutherford. And Columbia City Mayor Steve Benjamin. I'm also glad to have Coach McGuire's daughter with us tonight. Carol Ann Morgan and her family, John, are here. I had the opportunity to talk with Carol Ann during this planning, and I'm grateful for her blessing of this event. I would also like to thank the committee of individuals who've helped organize this weekend's festivities. From our athletics department, Holly Jefferson, Blair Cawthon, Jay Brown, Eric Nichols, Andy Astley, and Charles Bloom. Please give them a round of applause. I would also like to thank Dennis Powell, Coach Bobby Crimmins, and Coach Eddie Fogler for their contributions. Last, I'd like to thank Joe McCullough for his phone call about a year ago that said, "I have an idea, and we can do it next week." Next week was a little ambitious, but we have planned this wonderful weekend, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I would also like to thank Coach Frank Martin and his wife Anya and his team who are here today for their commitment to our future of Gamecock basketball, but also thank them for embracing our history. Dr. Pastides asked me to let you know that he would have loved to have been here tonight. He is out at an NCAA meeting where he is the chairman of the executive committee. Otherwise, he would have been here with us. But it's important for Dr. Pastides, me, and all of our coaches that we keep our relationship open with our former student athletes and our university. We are strengthened by the commitment these legends have made to Carolina athletics. We are where we are today because of them. All of you, please join me in welcoming all of our players back. It's going to be a fun night and a fun 2 days. I appreciate all of you being here. Let's enjoy the weekend's festivities. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to welcome up current South Carolina head men's basketball coach. He's in his second season in Columbia, and he'll lead the Gamecocks tomorrow here at Colonial Life Arena against the Ole Miss Rebels. We'll go from one Frank to another. Please join me in welcoming head coach Frank Martin.
Thank you. I just like Coach Tanner, I was also part of that Joe McCullough phone call, and somehow he expected us to be able to turn this over a 72-hour period, and I'm real happy that we all followed Coach Tanner's lead and we kind of put the brakes on a little bit. But so thankful for every one of you all in the front that was a part of making this happen. Something that's so important to our program. To every player that put on that uniform and has sacrificed to make this a better place for us. It's such a privilege for me to be able to say that I share the same job title as someone as Frank McGuire, and that I carry the torch and the duty to uplift this program once again to the days that he had, along with all of you that were such an integral part of the incredible success of this program. I do want to thank one person that hasn't been thanked yet, and that's the person that okayed all the funds and everything that took place to put this event together to make it so special, because he understands history, what an important part it is to bring success to today. And that's Coach Tanner for making this happen this weekend. When you tell a coach that he only has 2 minutes, you're lucky if he stops at 5. But I'm not going to be long-winded. We've got a lot of folks that need to address our crowd here today. I will say this, our guys need to understand just how lucky they are that they get to wear a uniform that so many of you wore before them, that because of your sacrifices, because of your success, we get to use a locker room that's second to none. We get to fly around on charter planes to go play. We eat meals that rival any meal in the country. The first-class treatment, the way that we treat our athletes in today's day and age. And it's all because of the sacrifices, all of you that came before any of us. You've made this a better place for us, and our objective is to uplift our program once again. So 20 years from now, 30 years from now, whoever's here can tell you that that group before did it as well as Coach McGuire did during his time here. Thank you for being here. This means a lot to our program as we continue to build it, and we build it together. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a graduate of the University of South Carolina. You going to go last? Okay, well, we'll move right along. Well, we are also pleased to be joined by several members of the South Carolina State Legislature today. Our next speaker has represented District 20 in the South Carolina Senate since 1985. Please join me in welcoming Senator John Corson.
Andy, thank you. And I also echo Coach Martin, Coach Tanner about Joe McCullough. I'm glad this is finally being concluded tonight. But I do want to thank him because he was the catalyst behind this and a lot of energy. Let me invite, if I may, my colleagues in the General Assembly who are here, all Gamecocks. All of us received a degree from the University of South Carolina. So Nikki Sessler, Representative James Smith, and Representative Beth Bernstein. Now, I got to put this in context. I'm a Republican. I'm surrounded by three Democrats. But this is not partisan tonight. This is Garnet and Black. And I'm tremendously pleased to be here because the University of South Carolina is in the Senate district that I represent. My wife and I met in undergraduate school here over 40 years ago. And our youngest son, Harris, is here and hopefully will be a Gamecock next year. He's going through the process now. As far as Frank McGuire, I was honored to be here when he was the head basketball coach. And Bobby, I recall in 1967 in December in the old field house when we beat Duke University. It's the first time we'd beaten Duke in almost 20 years. And Jack Thompson was in the honeycombs with me and right down the hall. And Jack circled the halls all night long and knocking on my door wanting to see if I had gotten the state newspaper describing the victory. And it was just an incredible scene because Vic Bubas, the Duke coach, had to huddle the Duke basketball team in the middle of the old field house. And it was absolutely just an amazing, amazing thing. Frank McGuire has left two legacies, I think, which transcend basketball. One, nationally, University of South Carolina, USC, people realized there were two USCs in the United States. And secondly, nationally, people realized there were two Carolinas in the United States. And after Ray Tanner finishes his tenure as AD, that will be one Carolina, USC. Let me turn it over to my colleagues, Senator Sessler chairs the Education Committee, the Higher Education component, the Standing Committee on the Higher Education, very, very involved in educational issues. Senator?
Thank you very much, Mr. Pro Tem. It's an honor to be here, and probably I can't express to you how much it does mean to be here, my wife and I. I was a student, undergraduate student and a law student here during Frank McGuire's era and while y'all were here. I was one of the few probably that are still here that saw basketball in the Roundhouse and then the McGuire House and now this facility that we have here today. We have come a tremendous, tremendous way. You are a part of what we are. And Coach McGuire is a part of what we are, of who we have become in life. You helped create who we are, and you have helped create what South Carolina is today and what South Carolina basketball is today. With Coach Tanner and Coach Martin and the things that they're doing and going forward, and Coach Fogler, I believe, is here also. Let me say to you, thank you for what you've done for this state. I just thought about it. I brought one of my 10-year-old granddaughters to a basketball game for those of you who were players here, the legends. And they showed it up on the big screen. And all of a sudden she said, "My gosh, Pop, look how short their shorts are compared to today." Thank you. Thank you for being a part of my life. Thank you for being a part of South Carolina. Thank you for Coach McGuire and all that you mean to us. God bless you.
Representative James Smith. Yep.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It is what an honor and a privilege it is to be here and to share memories of this great age of Carolina basketball. And I can recall being a 8-year-old camper at Frank McGuire basketball camp. And what an amazing time. The biggest times of my life, I'm telling you, was coming to see the Gamecocks play and getting to go to the camp and staying at Bates' house and going to eat at the cafeteria. And then the last games were played in the arena, and the head ball coach was there. And I thought if I played just well enough, I'd be signed up that day and start playing with Carolina next week. I was convinced of it. But he had that spirit. He made you want to do your very best. And his character alone exuded his leadership. And I know those that played for him for Carolina felt that and wanted to do their very best to please him and the whole Carolina community. But I would like to invite Ms. Caroline Morgan and her family and all of the Gamecock basketball legends to come forward to receive a resolution. If they could please come forward. The South Carolina House and Senate members have passed, and that includes our Judge Casey Manning, please come forward. We have a presentation we'd like to share with you. That's the one on the far side. You can go get it. As the players make their way, I want to share with you and all the assembled the resolution that has been adopted by the Senate. And you should know that all the members of the Senate were co-sponsors of this resolution, including those members that graduated from Clemson. It was also unanimously adopted in the House, including by all of those members that might have graduated from that other school up north. The resolution is as follows. Whereas Frank Joseph McGuire, the head coach of the Fighting Gamecock basketball team from 1964 to 1980, remains to this day the winningest coach in the history of the University of South Carolina basketball program, with a win-loss record of 283 to 142. And whereas Coach McGuire, after leading the University of North Carolina to a national championship in 1957, left UNC for a brief stint as the head coach of the NBA's Philadelphia Warriors, with players including Wilt Chamberlain. He arrived at the University of South Carolina in 1964 to coach, win, and develop players who went on to professional basketball successes as players and coaches, and to personal successes in many varied endeavors. And whereas Coach McGuire led the Gamecocks to a national prominence and success, including a team which went undefeated in the Atlantic Coast Conference in 1970, winning 25 games in that season, and a team which won the ACC championship in 1971. And whereas after the Gamecocks became independents, following the departure of the USC from the ACC, he guided the Gamecocks to 3 NCAA tournaments and to the NIT twice. And whereas his strength of character and commitment to his players led him to sign the first ever African-American players at 2 different schools, Solly Walker, who signed in 1950 at St. John's University, and Casey Manning at the University of South Carolina in 1969. These signings, please, yes. These signings helped transform the social fabric of each of those universities and the state in which they resided. And whereas Coach McGuire was a proud son of the Irish, proud head coach of the Gamecocks, and a proud family man with loving children, including Frank Jr., known affectionately to all Gamecock fans as Frankie. Whereas Frank McGuire's legendary skill as a coach and his contributions to the sport of basketball and to the development of young men as athletes and models for young admirers brought unparalleled basketball fever and acclaim to the Gamecock country. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives concurring that the members of the General Assembly, by this resolution, recognize and honor the late Frank McGuire on his outstanding contributions to the University of South Carolina and the state of South Carolina, and to the public and his players, and declare Friday, January 17, 2014, is Frank McGuire Day in Columbia, acknowledging that all Irish and Gamecock eyes will be smiling on this day with the memories of the McGuire era. Thank you very much. Please, President Miller. I'll let you go.
As Coach Tanner and Coach Martin have already said, today's ceremony would not have been possible without the dedication of our next speaker. He first hatched the idea of Frank McGuire Way and worked so hard to turn it from an idea into reality. And so we recognize him as well tonight. Our next speaker, if you can please give a warm round of applause for Mr. Joe McCullough.
All right, everybody wants to stay on schedule. I love it when a plan comes together, and that's twice for me this week. It's pretty sweet. I'm a track guy, so I got recruited in 1970, arrived at the Roost late, ended up on the basketball hall, and I'm surrounded by guys like John Roach, who couldn't be here, and Tommy Owens, who couldn't be here, but some of the guys that are here, Reebok. And I came to know these guys, and I kind of came of age with a lot of them. Some things we can't talk about. And as a lawyer, I should be ashamed, but I've got a confession to make. You know, this started as an idea to honor Coach McGuire, which I felt was a little bit overdue. But it was also the master plan to get all these guys back, all my friends, and make somebody else buy the drinks, and thank God we've succeeded in that, fellas. And I want to thank Coach Tanner and the University of South Carolina and all of his folks who have worked so hard to make this a reality, and they will forgive me, but if they don't know from being in the athletic department that track guys are relentless, you have to be running around in circles all the time. But I just want to mention that we're honored to have the players here and honored to have all of you here to honor our great Coach McGuire and Carol Ann, who I've talked with on the phone but hadn't seen in 40 years or so. And it's a very special occasion. And I want to mention that Joe Quigg, who is out here, and I don't know whether Tom Kearns got here, but two of the 1957 national championship team coached by Coach McGuire at some school in North Carolina. But Joe's and his wife are here. Tom's on his way just to honor and be with us, just to honor Coach McGuire. It's tremendous. Now, lastly, I will say that this is really about building a bridge from the past and building that bridge to the future with Coach Martin's team who are here. I know that he tells them, I know that they recognize, as we all do, that we all stand on the shoulders of our predecessors, and these are some giant shoulders that our team today stands on, and we've tied the past of the Carolina Coliseum and bridged the future here with this building, this great building and this great team and our great new coach. Coach, I know you want to get out of here because he's got stuff to do. Thank you so much. Have a great time this weekend. It's a pleasure to have you all here.
We're honored to have so many former Gamecock basketball players here in town for this Basketball Legends weekend, many of whom played under Frank McGuire, and it obviously not only speaks to his legacy as a coach, but the impact he made on so many young people's lives. One of his former players came to Columbia from Charlestown, West Virginia. Still holds the school record with 35 rebounds in a single game versus Elon. He went on to become a first-round NBA draft choice and played for the Phoenix Suns, the Atlanta Hawks, the Portland Trail Blazers in the NBA. But you knew him first and foremost as a South Carolina Gamecock. My pleasure to welcome up former Gamecock, Gary Gregory.
Now, let's get it up to size here. Frank liked big guys. He had great guards that could shoot the ball, but he wanted a couple big guys to go get it. I want to say to Carol Ann, this is long overdue. Coach McGuire leaves a legacy here of players that succeeded in life because of what he taught them. He was demanding on the court. And I look around at all these guys, and I'll make a motion, and they're probably all going to laugh. When Frank would stand up at a timeout, he'd button his coat, and he'd reach for his shirt sleeves. He did that every time. He was an impeccable dresser, but he was getting ready to let somebody hold it. He wanted to make sure that he had those sleeves in the right place. And the other thing that he always did was if there was a timeout and we just had a terrible call. In an old field house, I played in an old field house, 3,200 people was all it would hold. I came to school here in '63, it held 28. They put down new plywood on the floor and it held 32. And Frank filled it every night. But the other thing he would do is he'd walk over to the podium, he'd button his tie, and he'd grab a tie and start tightening it. And about that time, he goes, you know, you may be the worst ref I've ever seen in my life. He said, come on, Lou, get with the program. Next 3 calls with South Carolina's way. He left a legacy with his players to succeed. And we all owe him a big thanks for that. I'm going to tell you one quick story. True story happened in Louisville, or in Lexington, Kentucky. We're playing in a Kentucky Invitational. We have a 4:30 pregame meeting. Now, if it was 4:27, you better be there, because Coach McGuire was ready to stand up and start talking. You were never late. He was there on time. 4:30 meeting. We're all sitting in there waiting. We're looking around. We can't find Frank Standard. He was forward for us. We're looking for Frank Standard. We're looking around. We're going, boy, he's going to get it when he gets here. Coach McGuire looks at Coach Walsh and says, go find Frank Standard. About 30 seconds later, in comes Frank Standard, Coach Walsh right behind him, and you know you're about to give almost one of those halftime speeches when you're playing bad. Like, what are you doing here? He says, where were you? Frank Standard says, Coach, I was out there defending you. He goes, he just looked at him and says, what were you really doing? He goes, I was out there defending you. He said, there's some idiot from Kentucky that thinks Adolph Rupp's a better coach than you are. But he took that in stride, and he said, Frank, sit down. And that's the way he coached, and we all knew it. Now, Coach Martin, he's standing back there somewhere. He stands up to address the officials like this. What is that? But Coach McGuire, if he ever straightened his ties or pulled his cuffs, you were about to get in a street fight. He was a great street fighter. He taught us a lot, and this is an honor long overdue, and I want to thank the university for it on behalf of his players. Thank you.
Like his former coach, our next speaker is also a member of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. He enjoyed a decorated career with the Bucks, Pacers, Nuggets, the Mavericks, and he made the NBA All-Star team 8 times. But before all of that, he was a South Carolina Gamecock. Started for Frank McGuire from 1972 to 1976, and when he left Columbia, his 1,972 points was the all-time most points ever scored at South Carolina. Please welcome a Columbia, South Carolina native, former Gamecock, Alex English.
Thank you, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I think about my career with Coach McGuire, and the only thing that I blame Coach for is that he put me in the room with Casey Manning. Other than that, it was great. I had a wonderful time here. And, you know, we were asked to just mention a story about Coach, but I just remember his character and remember the kind of person that he was. And the one thing that he impressed upon me when I was here and just watching him, you know, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. I was only the second African-American player, scholarship player here, and I had to learn from the people before me. And, they had great names. The names that I came in, admiring Bobby Crimmins, Carver, Idlet, Ribach, Riker, and I got to play with Brian Winters and Mike Dunleavy and Kevin Joyce, some of the great players that played here. And I know that, Coach impressed upon them, and they all probably have a story to tell because he was bigger than life. The thing that I remember the most about him was the way he treated people. And, he was a big-time dresser, a classy man, but I remember one thing he told me. He said that the way you tip people, the people that were taking care of our bags and people at the restaurant, the way that he tipped them, they will always remember you for that. Be humble, treat them well, and he did that. And then the way he treated his family, Caroline and Frankie, and he always talked about I don't know what this means, being a longshoreman and the people that he grew up around. And, he talked about, I knew he used to take care of his two sisters. And then the way he treated Coach Buck Freeman, who was the elder statesman with us, Donnie as well. But just the way that he treated people is the thing that I carry with me throughout my life. Respect all people. It doesn't matter the color. It doesn't matter the ethnicity. It doesn't matter short, whatever. You treat them with respect. And that's the one thing that's played the biggest role in my life. Coach McGuire was, he was an outstanding gentleman, and I think that's the one thing that I remember about him the most. And I'm honored to be here with all of my ex-teammates and the players that played before me. Like I said, I grew up in Columbia, and I used to watch them on TV, and I'd see Reebok and I'd see Riker, how nasty they were. I was here at the game when they got in the fight with Marquette, and I guess the guy's name was Layton. That you got Lackey, you guys hit him or something. Hey, it was great. That's the one game that I came to as a recruit that I said, hey, I'm going there. I'm going there because it was on a national stage. It was probably being shown all over the world, but yet these guys out there punching and throwing blows. It was great. I hope you all have a great weekend, and like I said, it's great to see some of the guys that were here with me. I see Mike Dunleavy, I see Stu Kleitanic, Bob Mathias, who was our center at that time, is not with us anymore, but Mark Greiner, Billy Truitt, names that all of you all probably remember, Jackie Galloon, and it was George Felton, a lot of crazy people. But it was great. I'm honored to be here. And Coach Martin, I think you're doing a great job. You guys over there, you got a great coach here. You listen to him and know that the way he's molding you now is for, not just for now, but it's for life later on, once you're not playing basketball, once you can't play basketball anymore. And Coach, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gary, and thank you, Alex. So without further ado, let us welcome up Mayor of Columbia, Steve Benjamin, and also his special guest for the formal unveiling of our street topper and of Frank McGuire Way. Mayor?
Thank you, Andy. It's always an honor to participate in wonderful events like this. I've had the privilege for the last nearly 4 years of serving as mayor and chief cheerleader for the University of South Carolina, for Columbia, South Carolina, and a former student 2 times over, Gamecock here. And I will tell you, when I get around the country and I tell people what it means to be here in Columbia and what it means to be a Gamecock, I tell people all the wonderful things happening on campus and happening at Fort Jackson and state government, what makes this place special. But I really tell people what makes it special when you come off campus. these values and these character traits that we talk about with Coach McGuire. And I tell people, you step off campus and you still find men who open doors for ladies. You still find people who pull over for funerals, people who aren't reticent about thanking God before public meetings. You can still find sweet tea in restaurants. And you find people who know two of the most powerful words in the English language. And those two words are thank you. Thank you. Very simple words. Thank you. And this is an opportunity on behalf of the very proud people of Columbia to say thank you to Coach McGuire, to his family, Carol Ann and John. Some people think of 1964 as the last time that Clemson beat us in football. But the reality is, it was the beginning of a very proud and rich era here at the University of South Carolina, and for years to come, the road to the SEC championship, the road to the national championship here in South Carolina will no longer come down just assembly in green. On behalf of the people of the city of Columbia, it is our pleasure to recognize and honor Frank Joseph McGuire for his outstanding contributions to the University of South Carolina and the state of South Carolina, to the public and his players, and applaud the connecting of the past represented by the Carolina Coliseum to the future embodied in the Colonial Life Arena with the honorary renaming of 800, 900, and 1,000 blocks of Green Street between Assembly Street and Gadsden Street as Frank McGuire Way. Would you please join us?
At this time, we ask that you please direct your attention one more time to the screen to my right, your left. We're going to give you a little sneak peek of the video that will air before tomorrow's game here at Colonial Life Arena, officially welcoming back all of our Gamecock basketball legends. So, enjoy.
Building a foundation takes great attention to detail. If the foundation isn't right, the building simply won't stand. Today, we're building on a foundation designed many years ago by a great architect, the legendary Frank McGuire. Coach Frank McGuire was tasked in 1965 with building a basketball powerhouse at South Carolina. During his time with the Gamecocks, he led Carolina to 6 20-plus win seasons, the ACC regular season championship, the ACC tournament championship, and the 1969-1970 team is still the winningest team at South Carolina with a 25-3 overall record and a 14-0 record in conference play. Inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in 1977, the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame in 2006, the South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame in 1980, and only one of 14 head coaches to take 2 different teams to the Final Four. We honor the memory of head coach Frank McGuire. Today, as one Frank builds on the foundation of another, we thank Coach Frank McGuire and his family for his tireless work, his dedication to his craft, and his love for the Gamecocks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you all for attending tonight's ceremony. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the game here at Colonial Life Arena and the continuation of Basketball Legends Weekend commemorating Frank McGuire. Also, a thank you tonight to Bruce Brumfield and Founders Federal Credit Union for helping to support this weekend's festivities. When you walk out tonight, the street-topping signs saying McGuire Way will be there for you to see. Thank you all. Have a great night.